And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is the MMA Renegade podcast, episode 5. Elijah, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing well, sir. I am doing well. It is another beautiful Sunday. I don't know if you can see outside my room here. The sun is like really beaming on the side. Usually my room is always dark, so that's crazy. But I'm good. Semester's almost over. I'm happy.
Yeah, man.
Can't complain. We're at the final stretch. These last 2 to 3 weeks will be it for me. But hey, we made it here. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's nice outside. That's the positive. Negative, my allergies are bothering the hell out of me.
Fight back. Fight
So,
back.
so give and take. So give and take.
Over here beating your ass, huh?
Brother, I'm doing a 24-hour what do they call it? Allegro, whatever. It's not doing anything at all. So
Really?
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna have to do.
It's always fascinating, like the people who have allergies and they come out obviously in the spring and the summer. It's like almost like to have opened and you suffer.
Yeah,
there's like nothing more, nothing. You just suffer.
So, if you guys hear me sneezing, I'm sorry. I'll pause my mic and everything like that, but it's nothing I can do at this point.
Don't sneeze. Don't sneeze on the camera.
No, of course not. Of course not. We're professional, Elijah.
I'm not, but it is what it is.
All right. So there is a small bit of a lag, a little bit on your end.
Yes.
So we'll try to work around it.
Yes, but as we showed, did I do that thing?
You can do the thing.
Last night, and I mean, one of the craziest endings in the second round you could have possibly gotten. Last night, UFC was at the Apex Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, with the UFC Vegas 25 card. The main event was Yuri Prochazka, a guy who's a former Rising champion, right? Light heavyweight champion Grand Prix, I believe, Tyriece. He had won that. I believe he had won the light heavyweight Grand Prix. UFC noticed him, brought him in. He comes in with the stunning TKO knockout, of Volkan Ozdemir, and he fought last night against Dominic Reyes, coming off of a TKO loss to Jan Blachowicz for the vacant light heavyweight belt. Last night, I mean, fireworks from round 1 to round 2. I think these two guys at 205 are some of the biggest, baddest, fastest, strongest guys you could have in the division, and watching them go back and forth last night was amazing to me. If for those who didn't watch, of course, the winner of the supposed five round main event was Yuri Prochazka by a spinning elbow.
Yes.
In devastating fashion. I mean, comes from like the guy, you know what Yuri Prochazka brings to the table, right? He brings this uniqueness, this mysticism, this unclear of what he's going to throw, what he's going to use at the moment in time. And while stalking Dominic Reyes down in the second round, he gets him against the cage, is trying to tee off, trying to do his thing, then lands this crazy spinning elbow, and Dominic Reyes goes flat. I mean, that's a potential, candidate for knockout of the year.
Yeah, like the way he set it up too. Well, because he had Dominic Reyes hurt. Dominic Reyes, we'll talk about him in a second, but how the finish came about was Yuri was catching him against the cage with elbows as John was trying to cover his nose because his nose was busted and I think it was broken possibly.
Yeah.
And he went with a downward elbow. And then as he went with the downward elbow with the right, he spins with, I believe,
the left elbow.
The left elbow.
Yep.
Yeah. And then that sends Dominic Reyes crashing to the canvas. Actually, his neck kind of went in to, like, the way his head bounced. I thought his head bounced against the canvas.
Yeah.
But actually he went neck down, his head down into the canvas, which may have compressed his neck. Hopefully not, but it looked really bad on the replay.
He was out. He was fully out. I haven't seen. I mean, I haven't seen a knockout like that recently, but that was really. I mean, wow, just wow. Wow, I was impressed by that. I looked at before this fight, we had talked about who we think would win. And I think we obviously both leaned towards Yuri Prochazka, but we also knew we couldn't count on Dominic Reyes, right? Because
Right.
he's big for 205. He has the reach, he has the length, he has the power. We just, one of the points that you attest to, we just don't know how good he truly is yet. He's beaten some very big candidates in the 205 division, and one of which was a guy who stepped up in Chris Weidman from 185, but we just couldn't tell how good he was going to be just yet. He won a fight against Volkan Ozdemir, which we didn't think would, we didn't think he really did win. We thought it was a really, really close fight that should have been edged off for Ozdemir, but right. Dominic Reyes got the decision. And coming off of the losses to John Jones with that confidence shattered, and then coming off a loss to Jan Blachowicz for the vacant title, which is also a little bit challenging. We didn't know what was going to happen with Dominic Reyes. And I mean, after last night, it was bad. I didn't think we saw anything too bad from Dominic. I think what we really saw was just the overall game of Yuri Prochazka. I mean, that guy he's good.
See that? Okay, so let's start with Dominic Reyes since we're here now, right? You said you saw nothing bad from Dominic Reyes, right?
Nothing too terrible. Nothing that was like, oh, like nothing. I want to say. Let me retract that. I don't want to say nothing. There's not major holes in his game, in my opinion. There's not crazy major holes like he needs to fix that or he'll never be champion. Or it's not those kind of things. It's like, how do you account? What really happened, in my opinion, last night is like, how do you account for a guy like Yuri Prochazka who just can throw anything and counters everything? It's just a weird fight style to go against. And how do you truly prepare for that? But yeah, go ahead. What were you saying? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Let's say this nicely. So Dominic Reyes, right? We'll go look at his win-loss records in a second. But Dominic Reyes, what I have it here, but you can also pull it up as well. So some say, and also pull up Yuri Prochazka's record. That's also good too. His rising stuff too.
Yeah.
But with Dominic Reyes, the thing with me is I told you yesterday, I didn't know how good Dominic Reyes is. We still don't know, I feel like. In the fight, he showed promise. Like, he went for takedowns. He started off with good body kicks, which I thought he was using his range.
Yep.
It was just, to me, there were tendencies that Dominic Reyes had in the Jan Blachowicz fight.
Yeah.
And tendencies he's had in the Volkan Ozdemir fight. And the tendencies that I've seen in this fight, where if Dominic Reyes is on his back foot and against the cage, he loves to do that left hook. As you're coming in, he loves to throw the left hook. That's his go-to, but he relies on that so heavily when he's being pressured. And so, like, Yuri Prochazka was able to see through that, being the good striker that he is, being loose and everything like that. He's able to evade those strikes and see it coming. So where maybe the first round he caught him with it, and then after that, it seems like Yuri Prochazka just got his timing down. Every time that he would try to throw something on his back foot, it would either miss or Yuri Prochazka would just get out of the way to not get caught.
With this much of space, like he was able to. So I keep going.
No, yeah. So like. The one thing I'm seeing from Dominic Reyes is like, okay, if he's on his back foot and he's going against the cage, what he likes to do is he likes to move to his left.
Yeah.
He likes to move to his left to where either coming in, he's going to catch you with the right hook or the left hook. Usually he'll go with the left hook. And somebody like Yuri Prochazka, somebody like a John Jones, now Jan Blachowicz and some other fighters that you like to move forward, like to pressure, but also know to not rush in like a Chris Weidman. They can see that shit coming.
They can, and that's one of the things I can say. Yeah, that's one of the holes in his game. But he ate a lot of those shots better than I thought he was. I'm back, fellas, driving to listen. Hey, Flathead Politics, happy to hear.
Good morning.
Happy to hear you're back. Feel free to listen. I'm glad you're here. Just whenever you can, add your expertise in, as we would say.
Most definitely.
But yeah, going back to what you attest to, I think you're right. I think one of the bigger things is that Dominic Reyes most fighters don't do well on their back foot, right? Like that's a hard thing to do, is to fight going backwards. There's not too many fighters who can do that. I think when Dominic Reyes, one of the things that showed me was that he was also able to handle a lot of the shots that Yuri threw round one. Now, round two, it seemed like the accumulation or, what was going on in round one, like kind of got to Dominic in a way, no? It seemed like his face was definitely worn. You could see it. His like left eye, like left side of his face was swollen, a little red. I think that's the one. Yeah, that's one of the more interesting things. But this is really just. I feel like there's not too many guys who can do that to Dominic Reyes in this division.
At 205, I don't know.
At 205, we don't know, but there's 3 people I want to say besides John Jones who can probably edge him out like this, or potentially finish him. One of which is obviously Jan Blachowicz. We also said that we didn't know if he gets caught, because Jan likes to throw a lot of combinations, right?
Right.
Yuri was one of the guys when we saw this fight was made, we was like, ooh, that's an interesting comment. That's an interesting matchup because Yuri could definitely hurt him. And then the last one is Alexander Rakic, right? Who's got the power and the timing and the striking expertise to deal with that. Those are my only 3 guys right now that I can believe that can do this to. Oh, 4?
I would have 4th. Megomed
Ankalaev. Yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right. That's a strong dude. He the Nikita Krylov fight. He's pretty good in that fight. I was pretty impressed. But yeah, those are like the only 4 guys I'll give you right now that can do that. And I think one of the bigger things. I don't see it. One of the other things is that this 205 division now, these MFs are nasty.
Yes,
we're not getting 185ers who don't want to cut weight anymore. We're getting natural 205ers.
Right.
And that's why it's getting so much harder in terms of talent and competition, which is great for Jan, but you got guys like Yuri who can who have insane reach, right? Yuri's is 80 inches plus, right? I think. And then the next thing you know is that he has the fluidity of a guy who entered the Matrix.
Yuri is 80 exactly.
80. Come on, that's long. I don't know. But yeah, going back to Dominic Reyes, I mean, you're right. That's one of the bigger things that holds in his game is that he had these little tendencies that were made available and that were shown to be chinks in his armor in the Jan Blachowicz fight. And I think Yuri capitalized very well.
Yeah. Again, the way Dominic Reyes, if he's like, there's ways to where instead of going fully to back against the cage, you could try to exit out.
Yeah,
and it seems like he'll fall into the trap where kind of like what Tyron Woodley kind of does to a lesser degree, because Tyron really doesn't really circle. He just stays at one spot. But Dominic Reyes will circle to his left a lot, and he'll try to escape out of that. He tries to look for the hook coming in. If you're somebody that can kickbox or can look at that, you can stay on the outside, kick him, throw kicks, throw kicks to the body. If you're Jiri Prochazka, you'll just say fuck it and just go head in and try to land on Dominic Reyes. Which again, if you're back against the cage, you don't really have a lot of work room to. You
don't have a wiggle room.
Exactly.
I will say this: the one thing that I thought that that was shown from Dominic's part was he did have good defense up until a certain point, right? Like then he just started getting tagged, and it was like, all right, this is the point of no return. But Jiri Prochazka actually had really good defense, and I was really surprised he had a ground game. Not that I was really surprised, but he actually was really good on the ground.
Yeah.
I was impressed by that. I was really impressed. Like. Sorry, maybe we're lagging here, so maybe that's why it's coming through like that way. But Jiri Prochazka, he like shoots like for this weird takedown and almost gets it, and it doesn't, but then gets the take. I was like, wow, like that's not something I thought this fight would ever get to, is a takedown.
I did on Dominic Reyes' part. I thought Dominic Reyes would switch it up, which he did in the first round. Which again, give him credit. Goes for a body lock and then was able to transition to the half guard.
Yeah,
but Jiri Prochazka didn't stay down for long, and even Dominic Reyes went for a guillotine.
He did. He drops for a guillotine. He pops out. He also had a really good guard, right? He was throwing elbows from the bottom. Brought the head in, make sure He did very tactful things. I just think Yuri is he's such a strange fighter.
Yes, and
he's such a strange fighter.
And I again, it goes back to the question of I don't know. This may be a good thing and a bad thing, to where. Like, we both think that Dominic Reyes is good.
Oh, for sure. Top 10 without a doubt.
We talk about what things we see in this fight and stuff like that, like him going his back against the cage and how he tries to exit out or how he'll rely on just staying to the back of the cage and try to go with a left hook or right hook as a person coming in, which is caught with Chris Weidman and people in the past. But that said, even when we talk about his his bad tendencies he may have, he's still a very, very good fighter, and he deserves to be in that top 5. It just the question goes against these other 205ers like a John Blachowicz, like a Alexander Rasik, like a now a Jiri Prochazka, potentially Magomed
Ankilov, yeah.
Like, how good is Dominic Reyes? We've seen promise out of him, but we haven't really seen like if he is that elite level fighter. We've seen him against John Jones. He almost beat John Jones. Some people had him. Some people had him beating John Jones.
It was a close fight. Let's just call it what it was. A spade. It was a very close fight.
Right.
It is what it is. I'm sorry. I just want to say that. A lot of people say, "Oh, it was one-sided." No, it was a very close fight. But he proved I can understand that. I can understand the argument for people saying he should have won.
Right. So it's looking at his he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Jiri Prochazka by knockout. He lost to John Blachowicz by knockout. Again, the John Jones thing. Some people having it for Dominic Reyes. I have it for John Jones personally.
Yeah.
I thought he won round, I believe 3, 4, 5.
5. Yeah, he won the last 3.
That's what I had him. But some people have it for Dominic Reyes. Besides that, his wins are Chris Weidman, we've seen in the last couple of years, not just his last fight, which unfortunately he had his leg broken, but in his last couple of years, Chris Weidman has never really been the same since he lost to Luke Rockhold. Volkan Ozdemir, we had Volkan Ozdemir winning that fight. He's beaten Ovince St. Preux, where Ovince St. Preux, he's been the guy that's always a ranked fighter, but has never really crossed that top 5 spot yet in the UFC. Jared Cannonier is a middleweight. Back with Jared Cannonier, like he was trying to figure himself out.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy Kimball, Joaquin Christensen, which we don't really hear from in the UFC, or I think
they're fighting anymore.
No, so like again, look at his win-loss record in the UFC against the names he's beaten. Volkan Ozdemir is questionable. Chris Weidman maybe towards the end of his career. Over St. Preux, somebody that's still trying to crack into the top 5.
Yeah,
it's against John Jones, John Blachowicz, Jiri Prochazka. Those are top 5, top 10 guys.
Yeah,
he hasn't really showed out.
This is almost in comparison, or like this kind of mirrors the way you would think a guy like Paulo. We talked about this when Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya fought right recently. Yes. We talked about this, how Israel fought a lot of the lower good top guys before he got to that top 5 spot to challenge. Right. Then he fights guys like Robert Whittaker, Yoel Romero, Kevin Gastelum. But when you have guys like Costa devastating. He's great. There's no issue there, right? But Costa's rise to the top is nowhere near as I don't want to say nowhere near as challenging, but it's not. The resume isn't as long as Israel Adesanya. And so like when he gets to the top, when you look at it, you're like, damn, he beat these good people. Israel beat better people. Let's see who wins. Israel's resume is better, and Israel finishes him in the second or third round? Second round. Yeah. Second. So it's just it comes to one of those things, right? Like Dominic Reyes I will say this, he got pushed I don't think he got pushed too soon. I think at that time, he was the best guy in that division. At that time.
I agree.
There was no one who could challenge John Jones, right? John Jones had just finished beating Thiago Santos. He also just beat Anthony Lionheart Smith, right? Who else was there? You had Corey Anderson engaged with Jan Blachowicz at the time. So Dominic Reyes beats all these guys, beat a guy like Chris Weidman, who's a former champion. That's obviously to get you out there. Then you fight John Jones. I don't want to say he's reached his pinnacle in terms of UFC, but it's gonna be hard for him to get back. But it's still possible at the end of the day for him to be top. So I'm not counting him out. But where he goes from here, and this is a perfect segue for that, for at least him, and then we'll go Yuri.
Right.
Dominic Reyes has got it. I don't want to say there has to be a lot that needs to change. But now we need to take some good time and really debate how do we stay top 5? We could be a little bit smarter, maybe who the next return fight is.
Right.
And so he has the confidence back there slightly, because he was definitely still pushing on Yuri, even though he was hurt. That was one of the more impressive parts, right? He stood his ground, which I was impressed by. But I want some time off and to really reevaluate what's going on. Not too much time, but enough time. Who knows, right? But for potential matchups for him, who would you suggest? For Dominic Reyes, sorry.
Honestly,
I can pull up the rankings as well.
Yeah, you can pull up the rankings. Honestly, right now, I would want Dominic Reyes to take some time off. Dominic Reyes, just going back to this real quick. Dominic Reyes, we both agree he's a very good fighter. Very good fighter. I think the timing of him being pushed to the John Jones fight and then now being thrust into the top 5 spot, I think maybe even number 3.
Yeah, he's number 3.
Because there was nobody really around at that time. Dominic Reyes hasn't gotten the, he has the experience against top 10 level guys in the UFC and heavyweight division. Yeah. So now, he's kind of in that weird spot where, like, where can he go from here?
He's losing to the top 5 guys,
right? So he's in the middle of the division. He's at the maybe top 5. He'll probably jump to maybe number 6. But for him, it's like, okay, how did the UFC handle him going forward? Which translates to where he goes from here. I would think he'd take some time off, and then we probably won't see him till, if not the end of the year, maybe early next year.
Early January.
Because of the. Sorry, I know you.
No. We're lagging, but you're hitting it on the spot. We're flowing right now, Tyreece. Even though there's lag, we're flowing.
Yeah. So with Dominic Reyes, again, one of the things I've noticed from the John Blachowicz fight and the Jerry Prochazka fight is the fact of the damage he's taken. Mm-hmm. And yes, he returns fire, and yes, he's able to land against these other opponents, even though he's hurt, and he has heart, he has will. At the same time, though, he's accruing a lot of damage, and especially to the nose, where again, if it's broken again, he broke his nose against John Blachowicz fights. I would assume his nose is not in great shape with this fight as well, because we've seen him leaking, and I think it was a little crooked in between rounds. That's going to be a problem going forward, and I think maybe take some time off for the rest of the year if he can. And the UFC, he has to come with a good matchup with him to try to get him back to that spot. Maybe you fight somebody outside the top 10. Maybe you fight somebody in the top 15.
You know who I like as a good matchup for him?
Who?
A guy. I'm just hearing out. There's 3 guys I kind of really do like for him, right? Paul Craig, Misha Serkinov, or Ryan Spann. Three big 205ers. Those are all possible guys to really get your name back on it and say, I deserve to be top 10, then move up back up the hill.
You mean if he fights this year?
If he fights this year, yeah.
Okay. I'll go with that too. If we're saying he fights this year, which again I advocate, if he cannot fight this year, don't, just so we could kind of like matchmake the right fights for him to move forward and also give him time to recover and make sure he's not too injured. He's taking a lot of damage for 205er. I think he's only maybe was he like 20?
He's young. He's under 30.
Yeah, I think he's under 32. So I don't want as you're.
Oh, he's 30. He's 31. Sorry,
he's 31. Okay, so that's still young for this. That's still young for this division.
Yeah.
Again, maybe send him out this year. If not, maybe a Ryan Spann or a Johnny Walker or winner of Jamal Hill, Paul Craig fights Dominic Reyes next. Again, you don't want to put him up against somebody that. I want to say give him easy fights, but give him favorable fights to where it's an even playing field for him, especially coming off 3 back-to-back losses.
Yeah, big losses, right? The confidence one is from John Jones, right? Now you're thinking the greatest of all time beat me. I have to change to be better. You change a lot of things. You lose to the current champ. Now you lose to a guy who arguably is one of the best light heavyweights in the world. But you've obviously been in UFC longer. You had a little bit longer, and me not have as much experience as him. But it's a lot. That's mental and it's a lot physically. So
it was both 2 bad back-to-back knockouts too.
Yeah, too bad. This one was worse, but definitely 2 bad knockouts. And for Yuri Prochazka, I just do want to read you some of the people on his list. In terms of people he's beaten. Obviously, Volkan Ozdemir was his first fight in UFC. He beat him by knockout. But he's beaten CB Dalloway, who was on a tear in Ryzen. He's beaten Fabio Maldonado, who was a heavyweight, then dropped down to light heavyweight, was really good with boxing in terms of UFC, and then he got released. But Muhammad Lawal, he beat some good outside stars. Brandon Halsey, I think that was the former middleweight champion of Bellator at one point. So he's beaten some good guys, but this guy, he's an issue. He's a very big issue for a lot of people. And who would you have? What would you say is next for Yuri?
And just to add to what you're saying, so his last loss was to King
Muhammad.
Muhammad Law. And he avenged that loss by I think knocking him out.
Yep.
And you know, after this Dominic Reyes fight, it's his last out of his last 12 fights, 12 wins, sorry. 11 of those were by knockout.
Yeah.
So he has knocked out 11 opponents in his last 12 fights. That is a good ratio. But
He's a finisher.
He's a finisher, and he's going to get people to want to watch him, and especially after his antics and how he acted in this fight. You know, he was flowing out there, his crazy hair like a Teletubby. Like he looked good. He looked good. So the question is, what goes for him next? Obviously, you know, we have Glover Teixeira and John Blachowicz tied up. I would think he's the next one in line. My question to you would be, do you like his chances against John Blachowicz or Glover Teixeira?
I like his chances against Glover Teixeira before I like his chances against Jan. And the reason why is because I think with what I saw with his jiu-jitsu and kind of his ground game, I think he might be strong enough to kind of get past that part. And he could hurt Teixeira in my opinion, because Teixeira's just got the years of wear and tear. But the jiu-jitsu of Teixeira is immaculate, right? Like we know this guy, if he gets you down, he's keeping you there. I think if he's able to do that early with a guy like Prochazka, if Teixeira's able to do that early with a guy like Prochazka, it's better for him. But Prochazka is so weird and unorthodox, and he has the reach that the counters will definitely prove worse for Glover than it would for Jan, right? But then with Jan, the biggest issue with Jan is Jan throws combinations. Jan throws combinations, and he does it. It's not like he's loading up, but he has the power to put you down. So with the guy who is not and let's make this fact. Yuri did take a lot of hits in this fight with Dominic Reyes. He was stumbled a few times, right?
Right.
The way he fights kind of kidders with his hands low. So his main way of evading is either leaning back or slipping, right? If you can't slip and you can't evade, and with a guy like Jan who can be precise, that's going to end bad for you. There's only so many times you can slip and evade before he catches you, right? There's a finite amount. So if we're talking Prochazka, I would like him to fight for the belt next, maybe, or one more fight wouldn't hurt. I would like to see how he goes against Alexander Rakic. That would be a really good fight, in my opinion. But I don't know if UFC makes that. But in terms of just to bring this back, you did say how do you think he does against both of those guys, right? That was what you're getting. I think the better luck would be against Glover because of his Prochazka's countering ability. That's the only reason why. When it comes to Jan counters as well.
Yes,
we've shown that Jan not only counters, but Jan grapples. So I don't know. I think Jan he has a harder time with Jan than he does with Glover, but it's MMA, right? And Glover took a crazy punishment from Anthony Lionheart Smith and then comes back and submits him.
Yeah. So with Jiri Prochazka, like again, I've been saying since he came to the UFC, or before he came to the UFC, I said, watch out for this guy. It's gonna be a problem.
That was your prediction, guy. Yep.
Before the Ozdemir fight, I've heard about him enough and watched enough of his fights before he got to the UFC. To which, okay, this guy in the light heavyweight division that kind of needs new blood. He's somebody that's gonna rise to the occasion and probably get into the top 5 really soon. And here we are. That being said, his style is not the greatest in terms of fighting against light heavyweights. Now he had success against Dominic Reyes, yes. But against guys like a John Blachowicz, against guys, I would say Glover Teixeira, because Glover Teixeira, even though he's older, his defense is still pretty fucking solid. So for Jiri Prochazka, who likes to run, who has to come in with these shots and likes to act loopy, and he has his hands down for the most part, you know, those shots are going to be hard to cover up and try to defend, especially if all you're doing is sliding back or trying to evade. Because the body kicks were there. Like Dominic Reyes stopped the body kicks, and part of that is because he went to the leg kicks, and then it started to get counted with the cross or the straight down the middle, which hurt him a couple of times. But those body kicks were there. Like I see things in Jiri Prochazka's game where it's like he may not be in for a long time in this division when he keeps fighting like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a stat on UFC stats that say,
I'm sorry,
per minute he absorbs 6.80 shots. Significant strikes.
God, I broke it. Sorry, I almost broke my headphones there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Repeat that. I'm sorry.
No, I said per minute, he absorbed 6 shots. Six
It's a
significant
lot.
strikes. Six
Now,
significant
with
strikes.
a guy like Glover has been known to put people out in less time, right? A guy
Yep.
like Jan has the resume of knocking people out.
Right.
So don't get me wrong. Prajaka has the reach. He has the height. He's durable. He is strong. But one thing we've seen in UFC is that you can't take hits forever. No one
Exactly.
can take hits forever. And the
Exactly.
people who do, they're superhuman, but at a certain point, they crumble, right?
Yes.
So realistically, again, I'm still gonna stick with my original prediction. He can get the next fight. That's fine. The winner. It is what it is. Definitely keeps the division moving for
Right.
sure. Especially for Jan if he's running through opponents, and then it would be if Glover wins, it's a picture perfect way to do that. But the thing about it is that upper echelon of guys like that when you make mistakes like that, they will make you pay. So I would like to see Yuri kind of change that moving forward. Not change it too much because obviously it works for him, but I want to see a little bit more from him, a little bit more in terms of defense.
I mean, Izzy puts his hands down. People don't put him keep him down the whole entire time.
No, Prajaka's hands are always down, which makes getting the jab and the crosses are harder to see if they're coming from you see how me and you are eye level right now.
Right.
You're not seeing a jab that's coming up. You're seeing a jab that comes forward, but you're not seeing a jab that comes up. So it works for him. But again, there's pluses and minuses to everything. But I do think a guy like Jan or a fighter like Teixeira, they could expose that. So
yeah. So again, he's next to line. There's no way I see him fighting anybody else before he fights the winner of Jova Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz. It's just what does he change in the meantime? Because we've seen him on the ground. We've seen that he has knockout power in his hands.
Yeah,
he can do crazy creative things in there with like a spinning elbow. It's just what does he change to make it more well-rounded to be able to last against these guys that have better defenses?
Yep, that's it. That's really it.
Here we go. We hear that church now.
It has started.
It's Sunday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah.
Was there anybody else on this card that you were impressed with?
Yes, actually. I'm gonna pull up the card again. Last night was actually pretty good fights. I thought the matchups were very interesting. There was a lot of people there was one fight, Yoan Cutelaba versus Justin Jacoby. Justin Jacoby grabbed the cage so many times.
Yes.
I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm not saying, it is what it is. There's two people I want to say who really, in my eyes, looked good. That's a good developments. One person looked good. The other person looked phenomenal. Giga Chikadze finishes the fight with a liver kick. Oh, to be that precise. He at featherweight, he's gonna be a problem. He's a good up and coming to look for. And Merab Dvalishvili. I liked his fight against Cody Stamann. I thought it's interesting, right? Because a lot of people know Cody Stamann for having really great wrestling, and he has karate-like style of striking. Cody Stamann did really well. Like he almost neutralized Merab. If Merab didn't mix it up the way in which he did, like the boxing, and then the grappling, like he would throw the right overhand and try to shoot. Then when Stamann would realize that he was trying to shoot, Stamann would literally just stand still, lower base, come up, stop it a lot. Then the Dvalishvili what he would do was he would drop low, change levels, go for the overhand, and then try to mix in like a knee, come up knee. It just was pretty good. So yeah. I don't know. Those were the two fights, in my opinion, that kind of like really stuck out to me. But a bar burner was TJ Brown versus Kai Kamaka. Did you see that fight?
I did see the fight. It got a lot of praise from everybody online.
That was a good.
Some people had it going the other way though.
Yeah. It was at the end of the second round. It was like, all right, this is 1-1, right? Then the third round, it was like, whoa, like anyone could take this. Then I believe it just. I wouldn't disagree with Kamaka winning that. Like he probably should have edged that out, but you know how the judges are. Someone gave that fight a crazy decision, a 27.
Adelaide Bird
gave it 27-30. I was like,
if I'm not mistaken, isn't Adelaide Bird also the person that like I believe it was the Canelo Alvarez and Triple G fight. She scored it wrong. Or she scored it like some crazy margin, which was like debated. Like Adelaide Bird is somebody that's like a judge in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
that like her calls sometimes are like really iffy. Especially in this fight where she scored a 30-27, Saudi Amato scored a 28-29, Mike Bell scored a 28-29. It was a pretty close fight. First round TJ Brown, won. Second round it was really really close.
Kamaka was pretty good, yeah.
Close in strikes. TJ Brown did score a takedown. And the third round, TJ Brown, he may have edged it out, but even that 30-27, that's a close. That's saying that somebody won completely.
Yeah, that's how you say it dominated in every facet of the fight, and from round 1 to round 3. And I think she did do that. And I'm looking back at some history. She did in the 20s by UFC 216, which is like around the same time as Canelo versus Triple G. She gave that like a really crazy number, and she's also given out weird numbers when it comes to Angela Hill fighting too.
Yeah.
So this is
you're right. Wasn't it Michelle?
Waterson fight? There was a Waterson fight, which was like Waterson definitely lost.
Yeah. Adelaide Bird has been somebody I've heard mentioned a bunch of times when it comes to bad scoring decisions.
Yeah,
like she's on that list of people that's like, if you have her on judging your fight, it's like you don't want to go to the judge's scorecard.
No.
So that is interesting. Yeah. I thought the same thing as you. I thought, Sean Strickland was another person I thought looked good.
He looked good. He said himself though he didn't like the way he performed.
That's fair. I thought he looked good in the first round.
He did.
I thought as the rounds got closer,
Jocko figured it out.
They started to battle a little bit more. It became more of an even fight. But I still thought, for the most part, Sean Strickland pretty much, won that fight clearly.
He looks good at middleweight.
He does. So let's see where he goes from here. Overall, I will give this card a solid B-.
Oh, I was gonna go C+. What?
You can do C+.
Wow, that's the first time I've ever given a lower grade than you.
So what's your reason for giving a C+?
My reason I was giving a C+ is because one, I don't think the promotion was really there for this fight. That's one, right? Promotion was barely there. The fights were good.
Nothing stuck out to you.
Nothing stuck out to me.
Yeah.
I think we had great. Don't get me wrong, and this is nothing against anybody who fought. Right? You know us. We respect the fighters. This was a good card. I will say maybe it's a B- because the way Yuri Prochazka finished the main event, but without that, it'd probably be a C+. But I agree. We here now. We here.
Yeah, I again, the Yuri Prochazka, like the main event delivered. I thought there were
I'll do B+ because the co-main event delivered as well. It was quick, but Giga Chikadze.
But even that, it's like I would never have thought to put Giga Chikadze and Cub Swanson together.
I would if they really wanted to.
That to me was bad.
Yeah, it was bad matchmaking for Cub because, in all honesty, I didn't see that. I didn't see Giga Chikadze losing that fight.
No, me neither. So again, I think it's a solid B-. I thought there were good performances on there, but it didn't feel like it was a fight night. And I could also be because of the fact of we got May 8th, next week.
Yeah.
The UFC is going against boxing. Yeah. And that's a big thing. So you have Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders next week, which I'm watching. I
know. Billy Joe Saunders is your boy. I know that's your boy.
I'm sorry. I've been waiting for this fight for a while, so I don't think I'm watching UFC next week. I'm sorry. I'll watch it before we do the show next week. But I'm watching. Wow. Okay. He said Vlad Politics says main event was an A, rest of the card was a B. So Vlad Politics giving a better grade than we did.
He's a little generous this week. Being how he spoke about Jorge last week, but he's a little generous this week.
Yeah. I what's it called? I'm not mad at the main event being an A, the rest of the card being a B. You know,
That's what it was.
There's some fights on there, but it's nothing I'm gonna go back to. But yeah, like the Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders next week. You had Inter Ruiz versus
no, didn't they fight?
Ariola on last night.
Chris Ariola, yeah.
Chris Ariola during the card. So it's like, you know, a lot of attention is gonna be driven away from the UFC towards these other cards. That's on. So I think that's why you're getting some of these fights on the card where it may not be as interesting, trying to, you know, get people paid and just have something going.
Yeah, I agree.
So
all right.
But that is UFC fight news. Fight recap. Sorry. Fight. Now let's get into fight news.
Mm-hmm.
So Elijah, Jorge, success. So Diego Sanchez is now going from the UFC. The UFC released him, I believe, on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday.
He was scheduled to fight Don Cerrone on this week, actually, at the UFC Apex, I believe they having it there. Which again, they don't have a main event either, so that card is kind of falling apart as is. But yeah, he was let go by the UFC, and we initially thought it was because of the video he released with him and his manager / coach Joshua Fabia were I guess in a fighters meetings talking to Megan O'Leary, Paul Felder, I believe Angela Hill was in a corner, and John Anik. It was talking about how the media is treating both Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia, and how they should try to rectify that and treat him fairly. Which the method of what he was saying, the way he was saying it, I think it was a bad decision, especially as a manager for Diego Sanchez, to not only to have that kind of talk during a fighters meeting, but also to record it and and release it. I thought that was very bad. But that wasn't the reason why he was fired. The reason why he was let go was because his manager, Joshua Fabia, wanted Diego Sanchez medical records from his time in the UFC. And he wanted the medical records for himself or for maybe future use or whatever. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He didn't really specify. But Diego Sanchez did a long Instagram post. It's probably about 12 minutes, and where he talks about the whole process to where Joshua Fabia requested the medical records for Diego Sanchez. Mm-hmm. Hunter Campbell, UFC's legal advisor, stepped in and said, "Nah, man, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
So we're not giving you anything.
No, we're not playing those games." And basically said, Diego Sanchez called me. Let's get this worked out. And he wanted Diego Sanchez to, this Diego Sanchez words, to get a statement saying that he is not facing or dealing with any neurological issues. Mm-hmm. So not make them liable for anything when Diego Sanchez leaves, especially them asking for medical records. You don't know where they're trying to take this. And Diego Sanchez's lawyer said, "Do not do it." And UFC said, "All right, since you're not going to comply, we're going to release you." Now, to the UFC's credit, they gave him his win money, they gave him his sponsorship money, they gave him his show money, and it just
be on your way.
Parted ways. They parted ways. Also, Diego Sanchez has an OnlyFans. That's also there.
Could have left that out. So we could have left that out.
Listen, if you want to subscribe to Diego Sanchez OnlyFans, you can do so. I'm not criticizing anybody for having OnlyFans.
No, I just don't need to hear about that because it's just too much going on with him right now. The guy, I'm not knocking him for anything, right? He has a right and he's entitled to his medical records. But the issue is how they go about talking to various people at UFC and things like that. It's just very, you've never seen this before. Not to this magnitude where we have we've never seen this before. So it's just an interesting situation. And I'm sure there's parts where UFC is wrong. There's parts where, Diego Sanchez and his teammate, the guy, what's his name again? I'm sorry.
Joshua Fabia.
Joshua Fabia are wrong. It's just a weird situation.
So, okay. So now that I read off my phone that you can't see here, word for word of what I had written down about the whole. Honestly, I had to comb through articles and comb through videos in order to figure out what exactly were they talking about. Yeah. Now I got the context because a lot of it was just, Diego Sanchez is saying
said this XYZ,
or his manager's doing this. Now I got the full context of what the crux of the issue was. I asked you, Elijah, did the UFC wrong Diego Sanchez?
Does the UFC wrong a lot of fighters? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They. I don't know if they wronged him for. When you say wronged him in his career or wronged him for the situation.
Wronged him in the situation.
This situation, I don't know if he necessarily needed to be released, but also UFC's at the point where they're not dealing with anything besides COVID, right? They're not dealing with the extra additives that come with your manager or all this other stuff, because at the end of the day, they can release you as quick as they want to. There's a clause in most people's, most contracts. If they really want to release you, they could give you your money and send you on your merry way. That's the one thing about UFC. Did they wrong him? In a way, yes. But I also feel that bridges were burned because of how Fabia handled a lot of this situation.
Speak to how the UFC maybe wronged them.
I don't know if immediate release was the best thing for him, right? I say you could have just let him fight out this last fight. He would have gotten the money, all this other stuff. But then again, I guess it's not really that big of a deal because technically you got your money and you didn't have to fight.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of a plus.
No, it is. And okay, to be clear, me and you both do not want to see Diego Sanchez or Don Cerrone fight. That's a fact. Me and you do not want to. We do not want to see them fight.
I would like to see them fight. I just don't want to pay for it. That's it.
No. We both spoke on here in this show and said we do not want to see Diego Sanchez or Don Cerrone take more damage than they've already had in this career.
There's no point in this fight, honestly.
Right.
I mean, if this was both of their last fight and it was hyped up as like that, that moment where everyone was arguing about Jackson Winklejohn, sure.
It wasn't going to be the last fight.
But since it's not their last fight and this is them at the end of their careers and they both accumulate so much damage, just like, no. And you know me, I ride I'm a Cowboy fan. I'm a Cowboy fan. Hey, pause. It's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm cool with Cowboy. You'll
wear that.
I wear that. I'm fine. Okay. I'm okay with that. Right. I'm a big Cowboy fan. That's just it. At the end of the day, I play with him in UFC. In any UFC game, I think he's great striking-wise, has some of the best highlight moments. But at the end of the day, they just don't need to fight anymore.
Let me just make sure I write this.
Hail ride for Cowboy. I'm a fan. But most importantly,
that's the quote. I gotta change the caption of this. Yeah, I gotta change the caption of this episode. I gotta put Hail Ride for Cowboy.
Hail Ride for Cowboy. No, but honestly, these two don't need to fight anymore.
You don't have to be lonely.
Hey man, nothing wrong with what I said, man. It is what it is.
Elijah, okay. So I'm trying to get back on track. So okay, with Diego Sanchez, right? Mm-hmm. You said they wronged him because the way the timing.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I'll say this. I don't know as a fighter if you're allowed to your medical records, right? That's the one thing I can say that he's probably wrong, because I wonder if that's like that should be a thing, right? As a fighter, you should have access to the medical things that you do as a contracted fighter with UFC, because I'm sure that UFC does get them scans. So that's how I think they wronged him, if he can't get his own personal records. But I don't think they wronged him in canceling the fight, because at the end of the day, he still got paid to not fight. I think that's great.
Okay, so here's what I'll say, right? We agree that the way that Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia have been doing things lately, especially Joshua Fabia. Joshua Fabia been a lot extra with a lot of what he's been doing. It's been handled wrong. Mm-hmm. The whole videotaping Megan O'Leary and Paul Felder in that press conference, that was unnecessary. That was unnecessary. The way he even talked to them was unnecessary. Yeah. However, Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia do have a point. And the point is this, is that Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia, I keep saying Fabia, whatever. Joshua have been kind of made to look like, crazy or idiots
but they're not.
No, but they have been. They have been made to look like that. Now, some of that is because of how they come up on camera, how Joshua Fabia has been running around with a knife chasing people in the UFC during training.
Unorthodox. Let's go with that word. Very unorthodox in the things they do.
Diego Sanchez's history in the UFC and how he acts, and him coming out and looking a little off. That's nice to say.
Yeah.
Which again, that's on them, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, and I think we've talked about this in the past, is where the UFC sees something, sees it trending, and then amplifies it. Right?
Well, so they have the power.
Right. They have the power. It's should they? Right? That's the question of all this. Should they amplify it? Right? So we said in the past, we've seen like Kevin Holland, right? Kevin Holland example where Kevin Holland will trash talking fights. And the UFC will say, oh, people are liking that. People are talking about that. Let's amplify that. So now
let's cut a vignette.
Let's cut a vignette. Let's put a mic inside the UFC the octagon so we can hear everything that Kevin Holland is saying. Let's turn our mics off and just let's listen to Kevin Holland talk the rest of the fight. Let's set this narrative that Kevin Holland is trash talker and he's going to trash talk in every single fight that he's in, and he's not going to shut up for at least 25 to 15 minutes. Like that's the narrative, right? That's the narrative they're going with. The same narrative of somebody has one punch knockout power, like a Cody Garbrandt or whatever. The same narrative where yes, Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia are crazy, and let's put out cameras on Diego Sanchez. Let's show Diego Sanchez look like he's drooling and make mentions that he's drooling on camera. Let's talk about in the broadcast during the fights how crazy Joshua Fabia is and listening on and critique everything that he's saying. Now, as part of that on Joshua Fabia and Diego Sanchez, 100%. Should the UFC be amplifying that? No, because
these are things that they don't need to mention.
Because now this is where you are. You're in a situation now where you look kind of iffy because you release somebody that you've been amplifying, and they have the right. They have the right to say, hey, listen, in my last couple of fights, you've been making me look out, making me to be able to look out. I'm nuts. Yeah. You've been showing. You're saying I'm drooling on camera. You're saying that my coaches doesn't know what he's doing. You're saying all this. They have a right, and they're justified. They have been. Yeah.
It's just a weird predicament to be in, right? Like everyone, a reason why I say it's cringy is because it almost seems like this is something that is perpetuated, like they're crazy and it just keeps going like this. I think it's both parts, but I think UFC, again, being that they have the power to cut people and not like the narrative that they can tell is always that, oh, well, this is what they did to us. And, we don't really mess with that because they're acting this way. And it's like, that could be true. Like they could be crazy, very much so, but why would they be acting crazy when they don't have any of the power, But
again, should the UFC, and they should take notice of this and not try to do this again, is
they're never not.
Maybe don't. If Diego Sanchez does suffer from some type of mental illness, or if there's something going on, maybe don't amplify that. Maybe try to see if you can help him instead of trying to play it up for laughs.
That is a great point.
That is the crux of what I got from Joshua Fabia.
Yeah,
was to not take clips or to take moments out of Diego Sanchez's interviews or in fight analysis or whatever of him drooling, stuff like that, and played up for laughs. Let's respect Diego Sanchez as a legend that he is. That I can agree with Joshua Fabia. The way he handled it is wrong.
Yeah.
But the UFC has to learn from this because they do it time and time again with Kevin Holland, with the whole trash talking thing. If somebody has one punch knockout power, it's the same thing.
Let me just pause you here.
Go ahead.
you saying UFC has to?
Hold on. Kobe Covington with the whole MAGA thing.
Yeah.
Like,
They amplified that.
Him calling, him being the most hated guy in the UFC, calling
Trump after his fight.
Trump, the whole Brazil situation that he did, and like all of that. Like, the UFC like to take a persona out of a UFC fighter and amplify that times 10 into where now that's their whole gimmick. And now you have Diego Sanchez who's now saying, "Hey, I'm not crazy. I'm not drooling. I don't have these issues going on. Why are you guys talk to me like this? I'm a legend in this sport. I'm a former Ultimate Fighter.
What do you call that? Hall of Famer, really?
A Hall of Famer. He was inducted last year.
With the fight.
Yeah, why you guys talk to me like this? I'm a legend. You shouldn't be treating me like this. That I can ride with. The way he handled it wrong. Go, Elijah.
I'll say this. The one thing that's not going to stop is the UFC is never going to stop promoting, which they do, the way in which they do, because they still have the power to do that, and because they own, not that they own the fighters, but the fighters that they have are under contract with them, so they can promote them how they choose fit. And two, the UFC would have to admit that what they're doing is wrong.
Yes.
And when will you ever see that, Tyriece?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I like. You can't be mad at Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia for saying, "Yo, you're making us look we're nuts out here." Yeah,
and that's not true.
And we have clips and evidence of Joe Rogan or Daniel Cormier talking about Joshua Fabia and how his training is, and talk about how
weird it is.
Diego Sanchez is drooling from the mouth, which again maybe he is. But maybe to choose, maybe not to amplify that and try to see if there's something wrong with Diego Sanchez. Maybe he needs help.
Yeah.
If this Joshua Fabia guy was such a problem, maybe like there's ways to just go about things and just like how to handle things and not try to make them look like this way. So now Diego Sanchez is on OnlyFans getting released from the UFC.
It's hard. It's such a weird issue because again, you would have to place the assumption that UFC knows what they're doing. One, they probably do know what they're doing wrong, but they're never going to stop. Look, they're not going to stop trying to make money. And the one way to make money is to do these promotions, to do things like that, or in general, just like kind of to have that censorship where they're telling people not to mention anything. Is like that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Yeah. But I do think they need to handle their relations with fighters better. I agree. That part I do agree. Yeah, if it's something unorthodox, then let it is. It is what it is. But don't sit here and use that as a marketing tool to kind of either hurt or enable a fighter or to promote them. I guess in Kevin Holland's chance, it worked for him. But then again, at the same time, like, did we really have to have that? No. Like, it just could have been something that we always knew.
Exactly, and it had to be a what's the right word? Like a hey, he's doing the thing. He's doing the thing. You hear him? Let's shut the mics off. Let's only hear Kevin Holland talk.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can we come and say he likes Trump. He is
get him on the mic. Get him on the mic. He's about to say something.
Exactly. After the Jorge Masvidal fight, first thing they did, let's get him on camera. You know what I'm saying? Like there's things the UFC does where yes, it's about promotion. At the same time, morally and ethically, maybe let's try to figure out what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. Like, let's not try to amplify bad things or try to amplify things where, hey, we're making light of a serious situation. So if Daniel Sanchez did have mental health issues,
yeah,
and they're playing it up for laughs in the cage,
this doesn't look good. I'll say this. I think we can leave it here.
Yes,
we obviously know the morality of the situation, the stakes that are happening, but again, it would be on UFC to recognize the way they say things, the way they market certain things isn't right. And does that happen overnight? No. Can that happen? Yes. Will it happen? Unlikely. I
don't know, man. I just feel bad for Diego Sanchez. Even though him and his manager did put it on themselves, and Diego Sanchez is riding for his mans. He's riding for his man. So
listen. It is what it is, right? Like that's the person he has in his corner. Like I understand they stay loyal to each other. That is what it is. But there's definitely wrong on both parts. And
yes.
But again, it doesn't necessarily stem from always being Diego Sanchez. Right? We know he's taking a lot of damage. We know he may be crazy. It is, that's neither here nor there. It's the way in which UFC chooses to handle that information.
She said he tagged Bellator in one championship saying I'm free at last when he got released. I don't see him fighting. I don't see one championship or Bellator taking Diego Sanchez.
No. Maybe nah. One. Maybe one.
Does one want to deal with that liability of just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if he does have mental health issues,
there's some things, or health issues in general.
Or health issues in general, correct. Do you want to
take that risk?
Have a guy in Diego Sanchez fight? He passed his medicals, which he said.
Yeah.
And we don't know if he has mental health issues or not, but let's just assume he does. Would you have somebody that has these issues to continue taking punishment in the later stages of his career? I would think not. And also, one championship in Bellator seems to be investing in younger talent and trying to create new stars. So I don't know if they want to get an older Diego Sanchez and have him fight and potentially take more damage. So
probably not.
Hopefully he's doing well. Hopefully he's made money. He's has other things he can do. If you want, you can join his OnlyFans, Elijah.
Nothing.
Would you join Tia Dillashaw's OnlyFans?
No. I wouldn't join any OnlyFans. I do. Listen, I support anyone getting their money, but I have to save my money for other things. So unfortunately, but I would buy a TJ Dillashaw t-shirt.
And you also rock a cowboy. All right. So last thing on the docket. Kamaru Usman seems to be fighting again this year.
Wants to fight on the June card.
On the June card, which again, that's not going to happen because you already have a set card. You have Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori, which was announced. You have Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brendan Moreno on the card. But the fact of the matter is that he wants to fight again soon.
Yeah.
And now that may happen in July, that may happen in August, but the fact that he wants to fight soon is interesting. Why it's interesting? Because when's the last time you've seen Kamaru Usman fight 3 or 4 times in a year?
It's been a minute, but I think the reason as to why is because one, he's obviously trying to put down his legacy, and two, he didn't take a lot of damage in that Jorge fight. And realistically, there's not too many people after Jorge and Colby who really pose that big of a threat. So I can understand his thinking, saying, "Hey, like I'm a problem. I can do this to anybody and everybody in this division. Let's get it popping." And I get that. And as a champion, he also seems to be at a point where he's a lot healthier. Right? Yeah. It seems like he's gotten to a point where he's fully like everything is clicking. The striking, the wrestling, the grappling, the cardio's always been there, so we know that's not going away. But it seems like health-wise, like he's not, he hasn't mentioned his knees in a while. He hasn't mentioned back problems. Like he hasn't mentioned a lot of these issues that have been plaguing him from when he beat Tyrion Woodley. Because at that point, he was only almost fighting almost once a year. And like fights got put off because people weren't signing contracts, things got put, like it just happened. So I think he's getting to the point where he's finally saying, I'm able to control who and when I fight. I want the next fight. Let's keep the train going.
Yeah. So the last time Kamaru Usman fought 3 times in a year was in 2018 when he was on the rise to get the title. He fought Emil Meek, beat him by decision, beat Demian Maia by decision.
Great fight. Yeah.
And then beat Rafael dos Anjos by decision. And then next year he fought Tyron Woodley. Yeah. Every other year it's been maybe 2 fights a year. In 2020 it was 1 fight because of the nagging injuries and stuff like that. But it seems like now, like Kamaru Usman, like he said, is really focused and he's putting guys away and he really wants to cement his legacy. The fact that he wants to fight, he wants to defend his title. It's one thing. It's one thing to fight, without a belt and just want to fight somebody. It's another thing to defend your belt 3 times. He's trying to do it 4 times at the end of the year as well.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. That's not an easy feat for any champion.
No, it's almost unheard of. You barely hear anybody, maybe Valentina Shevchenko, and where they'll defend the belt multiple times in a year.
And then you also have to look at the state of that division, right? Where you have this kind of wild west where anybody can pretty much get it because there's no clear cut person, and then the champion doesn't want to wait. Right, the champion wants to stay as active as possible, so you kind of have to make these fights. But then it doesn't translate as well as it should, but it does. It's a weird because bottom line, it's a weird way that division functions, and Kamaru is trying to have that longevity and also try to have that cementation of his legacy. So I'm for it. I'm for him fighting, just not this soon. Take some time off.
Now, Flat Politics made like this. So Barack Okamoto spoke with Ali Abdelaziz on the 30th, and basically, he asked him, "Hey, what's going on with Kamaru Usman?" And Abdelaziz says, "Kamaru Usman wants to fight in June, like we said. He wants to fight Michael Chiesa.
Yeah.
Chiesa is on a win streak. I believe it's like
Neil Magny, Carlos Condit.
It's like 11 or 10.
No, there's no way he could be in an 11 or 10. He's definitely like on a 4 to 5. And that's because
I'll put it right now.
He beat Dos Anjos, he beat Magny, he beat Carlos Condit.
No, he's on a 4-fight win streak.
Yeah. That's more like it because he beat some really good guys. That's the thing. He's beat some really tough competition in that division, but 11 fights is because he had just jumped up. Right. He just jumped up from lightweight.
Yeah, maybe he misspoke in what he talked about. Maybe he was thinking about Leon Edwards and maybe project Leon Edwards. I know Leon Edwards is on have a win streak right now.
Yeah, his win streak is done long.
Yeah, but like that, Michael Chiesa is interesting. He beat Carlos Condit, he beat Diego Sanchez, he beat Rafael dos Anjos, he beat Neil Magny, which those are interesting matchups. I don't know if he's ready for a title shot yet.
No, I wouldn't give him one.
Praise the Lord.
I wouldn't give him one.
No, I wouldn't give him one either. I think the winner of Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards is next in line.
Yeah, and it's really only because Leon Edwards can win that fight and then fight, right? It's not necessarily because Nate Diaz
or Nate. I mean, honestly, who knows?
Nate is from the name. Leon is from what he's done, the resume. But Nate, again, he's looking solid at 170. So we'll see how that fight goes. The one thing I will say was interesting. I don't know if you heard this in like a tidbit, but I was watching Agony and Defeat, right? And UFC Agony and Defeat. And that's when they obviously go over the losses of prior UFC title card, right? Pay-per-view card. And Trevor Whitman talked about, he's like, he didn't really think Masvidal should have gotten the second chance, right? But he did. And like Kamaru wanted to put him away. He's like, a lot of the welterweight guys are just sitting around saying they want a title shot but haven't done anything, and that's kind of the state of the division right now. Colby Covington only has one win post fighting Kamaru, which is Tyron Woodley.
I'll push back on that.
Yeah,
I'll push back on that and say the reason why they're waiting around is because the UFC keeps saying that this guy's no more contender, this guy's no more contender. So like if when Tyron Woodley lost to Colby Covington, because of contract negotiation with Jorge Masvidal, they were like, okay, Colby Covington next number one contender.
Yeah.
Then they switched up and said Jorge Masvidal number one contender.
Yeah.
Then you have Leon Edwards who came against the United States and is dealing with health issues. Yeah. Can't even fight. And it's like so like it's not that they don't want to fight. It's just that the UFC kind of backs himself to a corner of like saying this one's number one contender, that was number one contender. Okay, this one's not gonna fight, so we're gonna take this one, gonna want a title shot.
I agree. I think part of it's on UFC, but I also think a lot of it has to do with the UFC. That's the number one, right? Because they're the ones who have to put the fights on or put the fights together. But there's a lot of fighters who don't necessarily want to fight certain people, or they're necessarily like, well, I'm just going to sit out. And we talked about this with Colby, right? Did you think Colby deserved to fight for the belt next after beating Tyron Woodley? Yes or no?
No.
Well, exactly, right? He could have fought somebody else. The fight when Leon could have come to fruition. Masvidal could have fought Leon, but they gave him, they offered him a title shot. What are you going to do? I think I agree with what you're saying. There's a lot that happened, but I also think that a lot of people are choosing to, they're close. So everyone's close. But if everyone fought each other, that'd be another thing too.
Well, I mean, let's look at the division. So we had Gilbert Burns kind of fought. I think he fought 3 times last year.
Yeah, Damian Maia.
He beat Damian Maia. He beat Gunnar Nelson, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Gunnar Nelson, and he beat Tyron Woodley. So he fought 3 times this week. He became number one contender. Colby Covington fought Tyron Woodley after he's been talked about getting a rematch against Kamaru Usman. Yeah. So there was negotiations between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington to do a rematch. Those talks kept going back and forth, so that stalled it out. Then you had Jorge Masvidal's rise in 2019. And then he steps in on 6 days notice. Yeah, on short notice to fight Kamaru. Kamaru Usman. So then there's a rematch there. Vicente Luque lost to Stephen Thompson not too long ago, and Stephen Thompson, I believe he fought
Anthony Pettis. I guess he fought Anthony Pettis, but got knocked out before that.
So there was that, and then he also beat Jeff Neal as well last year.
Yeah, sorry, that was it. That was Jeff Neal. Was the most recent fight.
Right. So they're moving. They're moving. Vicente Luque is now in the top 10. So they're moving. He is. Vicente Luque is number 6.
No, I didn't say is he moving. I'm saying the division as a whole is now moving because Kamaru just beat Masvidal. But there was you have to admit there was a bit of stagnancy that was caused by people not wanting to fight, but also by UFC not being able to make fights successfully happen.
I agree with the latter. I agree it was the UFC making claims of Jorge Masvidal's next. No, Colby Covington's next because they wanted more money, and then the UFC was not willing to give them more money, so they kept on the division. And then also COVID. So I don't think it was necessarily them not wanting to fight. I think it was just the UFC not having a clear guy who really wants to fight because of just contracts, and then also COVID. But there was movement. There wasn't you know me. I'll call a spade whenever I see it. I just think that there was movement. It's just the UFC held the division by not giving the fighters what they want.
I think we'll probably have to disagree on this one, and that's fair. Okay. I think again, I admit it. I think UFC. A lot of the issue is they're saying this is the next guy. This is the next guy. It's like everybody cannot be the next guy.
Right.
Just because they get a solid win does not make them the next guy. And it almost seemed that everyone who beat, except for Masvidal, everyone who beat Woodley was supposed to be the next guy.
Yes,
that was the bigger thing.
And where it kind of devalues like
Woodley.
A win over Woodley. Yeah,
that devalues a win over Woodley, but it is what it is. But as for Kamaru, I would like to see him fight again this year. He didn't see if he's all right. I'm okay with that. If he
I'm glad you brought up Woodley's name because I just for some reason almost forgot about it. Woodley's not in the rankings anymore.
No, Woodley's he's no longer a contracted fighter under the UFC banner.
Also, he's retired or he's done with the UFC.
No, he's done with the UFC. He hasn't himself said he was going to be retired, but he for sure he's released from his contract. His contract's over. No,
I just when you said Woodley's name, I was like, I forgot he's not in the rankings anymore. Nope. And then we saw him doing the desk analysis yesterday. So I wonder if he retired, but it seems to me that he's not retired, but he's not under contract either. So that's
he's no longer contracted as a UFC fighter. He probably, as an analyst, he could still be there. He's definitely a great sports mind. He's great. He could be a possible coach. He could be someone, a commentator for future fights. You never know.
Do you just last thing? Do you see Kamaru Usman fighting in the summer?
It's tight. That's tight.
We have June. We have the middleweight and flyweight championship on the line.
Earliest is August. Earliest would be August.
I think August. If I'm not mistaken, that's Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, earliest would be August. In my opinion,
you could do that. You could do that there.
Yeah, because he's not going to want to fight. He wants to fight right away, but then he talks about his family and spending his time. It's just too quick of a turnaround to fight in June.
You don't. You possibly have Francis versus Derek Lewis in August.
Oh, so
you don't want the makes sense. Card. That makes sense. No, it actually does make sense to have Kamaru Usman fight
someone on that card.
On that card because of the relationship between Ngannou and him, and they'll be training together at the same time. So that makes sense, actually.
Yeah. I say August would be the earliest, in my opinion, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, do you think Woodley fights again in the UFC, or is he? Or do you think Woodley fights again, or is he?
Woodley fights again. Woodley fights again. I don't think it's under the UFC banner. 1, and 2, we may see Woodley go to boxing if the money is right.
Ugh. All right. All right. Well, that's a good way to end the show.
There you go.
We'll be
I know
back.
how you feel about that.
No, I do not want to see Tyron Woodley box. Unless it's against somebody that he can actually win against.
No, not box against anyone like that. I mean, it's possible. The talk about Jalen Love, talk with Jake Paul. It's possible you see him get $1 million. Easy.
Why do you do this to me?
Listen, what I've learned is that in show business, in the fight game, nothing is impossible. Nothing's impossible.
Why do you do this to me?
Hey man, if I don't mention it, someone will. I don't want the fight to happen, but I want Woodley to get the respect that we all in the MMA community give him. There's people who don't respect Woodley out there, and if he got $1 million, I would like for him to. He could do it. I think he could do it.
Anyway, that's our show. That's our show for today, guys. We'll be back next week to discuss whatever card they're going to make up, because they don't have a main event right now.
Nope, they're probably going to push somebody up.
So it's going to be interesting to see. We don't know who Don Cerrone's fighting either. I think Kevin Holland. No, not Kevin Holland. No, Kevin Holland advocated for it, and then
a few people advocated for that 170 spot against him.
Giga Chikadze also advocated yesterday, so that's also interesting. So
that'd be interesting to see him at 170.
We'll see what happens, but yep, that's our show. Honestly, guys, I'll probably be talking about Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo Alvarez next week.
That's your boy, I know, and that's your you don't shut the hell up about him when he fights.
I'm sorry, guys. You may get more Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders talk next week. So we'll see how that goes. Signing off. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been MMA Renegade. Have a nice day, guys. Please share, subscribe, and enjoy, and have a nice day.